Show me then.
彼の名はジャイロ。
Oh.
NGL の影のドンである。
Dawn in the shadows. Oh, look at this backstory. Yes,
ジ
please.
ャイロは0歳から12歳までとある飯場で育った。言葉より先にレンガの積み方やコンクリートの作り方を覚えさせられた彼は父親を殴り殺して飛び出すまでの間
Born into it, eh?
ただ働きを強いられていた。男手一つで彼を育てた父親は過酷だった。二段ベッドの上にいるジャイロに声をかけることはほとんどなかった。
Neglected, eh?
ジャイロが7歳まで
It's a running
ろく
theme.
に言葉を話せなかったのはそのためだ。ジャイロは仕事から戻ると
Oh, he's shaking.
共同便所に行くとき以外ベッドから降りることを許されていなかった。回数も1日2回夜9時までと決められていた。木製で腐りかけのベッドは
And that annoyed the father, of
派手な
course.
音できしみ父親はそれを嫌った。
And he lashed out, didn't he?
一度その音が原因でこっぴどい折感を
Look
受け
at
て
this.
彼は全く動かず寝る術を身につけた。人に
God damn.
迷惑をかけるな。無口な父親が唯一彼に事あるごとに説いた教えだった。ジャイロは幼さゆえの失敗を重ねながらもこの教えを大切に守ろうとした。おもちゃの一つも買い与えられなかった彼にとってこの言葉が父親からもらった宝物だった。
It's a rough upbringing, but I'm sure he incorporated a lot of this later in life.
父親は神に等しかった。何よりどんなに存在な扱いを受けても
Your father is your
彼は
father,
父
the
親を
only.
慕っていたし、父親から必要とされていると信じていた。信じる根拠は2つあった。ジャイロが5歳くらいの時、高熱で死にかけたことがあった。その時父親が徹夜でタオルを変え続けてくれた。
Might have been for selfish reasons, but
そしてもう一つ、自分は今まで一度たりとも父親から出て行けと言われたことがない。この2つが少年の密かな誇りだった。バカ、出て行けって言われねえのはな。
selfish reasons. But
無神経にそこをこじ開けた一回り以上年上の
and
青年
once he
に聞いた。
snaps,
大事な秘密を軽々と話してしまった後悔と自分への
did he feel that he had to run?
誇りを傷つけられた憎しみが
Oof.
一気に噴出し、
This is about to be really crucial.
普段から小馬鹿にしていた弱気な少年の突然の造反に怒り狂った青年は彼を袋叩きにした後も腹の血が収まらなく、おめえが熱出した時に看病してたのは隣のじじいだよ。おめえの親父はその時も自分の部屋で飲んだくれてただけだ。
Oof.
自分の子供が死んだらどうする気だってな。
Oh no, don't say it, don't say it.
おめえ
Don't.
の親父が何て言ったか教えてやる。
I couldn't care less.
別に死んだら死んだで構わねえよ。
青年の言葉を聞きながら
The youth,
ジャイ
he
ロは
looks so
信
old
じら
though.
れないものを見た。
He's just gonna walk on. This is such an interesting approach. I like
自
it.
分と目が合いながら全く関心を示さず通り過ぎてゆく父親。
Whoa.
ジャイロはその時全てを理解した。
Whoa.
宇宙は俺に興味がない。
It's a cruel place. It is, young man. It can be.
俺は死んでもいいし生きててもいい存在だった。どうでもよかった。
He gave it meaning, though. He gave it
生
some
きていれば
meaning.
金が入るし死ねば少し部屋が広くなる。
Beautiful stuff. Look at this.
あの言葉は息子のためなどではなく 100% 父親自身のためのもの。人は父親のこと。いな、人とは人間だ。
Gyro.
人間に迷惑をかけるな。
Uh,
人間じゃなかったんだ。
I think he decided he's going to do the opposite of that now. Isn't he?
そのまま近くにあったハンマーを手に取った。
Wow. I'm applauding the approach. The production approach.
さらに9年後、それは国家となり、彼は王となる。
King Gyro.
ジャイロは
I see you.
全世
I
界
see you,
に
man.
悪意をばらまきたかった飲む麻薬 ED はそのためまだほんの手始めであった。
Interesting. So it wasn't just a common drug. Yunjin. Did he have an experience? 40.
コルトのやつにずいぶんあっさりと引き渡したわね。
ジャイロか。くそ、黙って食っときゃよかったぜ。
Huh. Wow, I'm kind of stunned at that opening, folks. Gyro's backstory. Oh no.
これ最高。
Psycho. I remember hearing that in Chainsaw Man. This is alarming. So alarming.
一体ここで何が起こってるんだ。
Something a bit out of your league, my friend. Whoa. Whoa. I'm still kind of reeling from, again, the first half. All of a sudden, Gyro just became so fascinating.
さらに兵の死骸が。ああ、見つかったのはザザンとこの3匹。
Zazan.
他にも俺の兵が1匹行方不明。
The ones Poco took care of, right?
だが見つかった死骸は銃とは違う何かで射抜かれている。
Oh boy.
何か
Oh no.
何かって一体なんだ。俺が知るかよ。奴らが持つ未知の武器ってことだろう。
You are part human, though.
兵の死骸はどこだ。ペギーが上で調べてる。
As expected of
こいつ
Colt,
は銃で撃たれている。
right?
目撃した他の兵の話がどうも分かりにくくてな。人間が何かを撃つ真似をしたら何も飛んでこなかったのに
I mean, that's still pretty clear.
頭を破壊されて倒れたというんだ。そういうタイプの兵は確かに何かが
Ooh,
発射された
that's
と
an
感
interesting
じている。
detail.
思ったより手強いぞ、人間は。
My friend,
人間の力ならそれを受け継いでいる俺
you're
たち
part
に
human.
使えるってことだ。
分かっとらんな。人間の強さは学習能力の高さにある。
To
我
adapt.
々のアキレスが女王様だと学べば、奴らは手段を選ばず、彼女を殺しに来るぞ。
He's not wrong. Ooh.
分かってねえのはお前だ。だったら俺たちも手段を選ばず上
He's looking at it from their own perspective.
違うか。
Forget about the humans.
まあ確かにその通りだ。
Oh no, Peggy.
必ず守る。レイナは俺が守る。
Reina?
誰だレイナって。
いや、お前が今言ったのが。
俺が
Ooh, it's leaking out. But Reina is also the queen, right?
レイナ。
Yeah, he tried to play it off.
メッセージを受け取ってないわ。
Oh no.
連絡を取り合ったハンターたちは全滅したってことよ。
Okay, that explains it as well. The other teams.
一
Brothers?
度 NGL を出て全世界にこのことを発表し駆除隊を結成する。
Ooh,
何でもいいから早くここから逃げようぜ。
extermination force.
このままじゃみんな出たー。
Interesting choice of music there. I wasn't expecting that. Okay, Red Arrow again.
人間は生け捕りにするんだとあれほど言って
Oh, that's not a Gen 1.
生かして女王様へ献上するんだべ。
Old timer. Spider as well. Ooh.
七色の矢の中で最速の塔の矢をいとも簡単に。
はっきり見えるでねえか。下級兵子供はこんなもんも見ることできねえんだべか。
Ah.
体を覆っている生命力そのものとも言えるエネルギーが
This one's part human, right? So it's
女王様にとって最上級の栄誉
beautiful eyes.
になりそうだ。
Eyelashes. What? I thought he's meant to. He's a bit of a goof, but so damn frightening. Look at him. Ah, he's from Zazan's team, eh? Oh, he just got stung.
持ってるものを話せばいいでしょ。
Yeah, he's a goof.
もう戻るよ。
いい獲物が手に入ったからね。
Really excellent food,
こいつ
unfortunately.
は普通の人間の1000人分にも値する栄養がありそうね。
Oh, that's a game changer.
お手
This is the moment.
バイク
Is he kind of like a dirty old man, you know? I mean, you can see how he finds her really quite attractive. I mean, she is attractive. Come on, just give...
助けられない。応援を呼ばなきゃ。
Come on, please, just let Panzu get out of here.
なるべく強いオーラをまとっているハンターのもとへ。
There's a few around, but... I don't like how she's in the... I mean,
刻も早くここ
she's in the open, but she has to be.
きっとまだ仲間がいる。
Right.
面白い。借りて面白い。
Oh, he's just eating her. I knew it's coming, but still, man, it stings. It stings. A lump in my throat. They must recognize,
かなり
right?
危険だが一緒に来るか。
もちろん俺たちもプロだぜ。
教会へ連絡してくれ。危険生物だ。
了解。
If they make it back, hopefully.
カイト。
ああ。ついてこれなきゃ置いてくぞ。
こっちのセリフだね。
This feels like DBZ for sure. Wow, this is some episode. This is certainly a milestone episode. Episode 80. Oh my god, he ripped her to shreds.
機械の類は一切持ち込めないはずだよね。
About that.
裏の支配者たちはドラッグだけじゃなく銃も密造していたってことさ。
So they are.
だけどこの現状は
人間の仕業ではない。おそらくキメラアントだ。
They're using guns now.
もしもそのキメラアントたちが銃を
Yeah.
扱えたとしたら想像したくないが裏の支配者たちもすでに女王の餌になっているかもしれない。そいつらの遺伝子を持ったキメラアントが
Yeah, that's a question I posed.
NGL とキメラアント思いつく限り
Oof.
最悪の組み合わせ
Yeah.
未曾有のバイオハザードになる。事態は最悪の方向へと一気に転がり出していた。
Damn. Damn good episode. Hey? And, you know, especially if they got Gyro. Ooh. If they got Gyro and fed her, or fed him to the queen.
Okay, yeah, you know, that right there is a worthy episode, right? Worthy of the number. Episode 80, the big 80, right? 80 episodes in. Insane. But yeah, you know, top to bottom, phenomenal episode. It really is. It's one of the standouts of the series so far out of the 80 episodes. You know, top 10, top 5 type episode, top 3 perhaps. Yeah, it's I don't know. It kind of feels like a monumental pivot as well in the series. I mean, you know, it's not something entirely new or anything, you know, this idea of escalating stakes or the stakes being as high as they've ever been beyond just a different level. This is just, I don't know, you know, this is so important to this story arc, of course. It's important to the whole anime, the whole story. It's so important to the progression of these characters, right? Because this I don't know, they've kind of crossed this really crucial and, you know, important threshold at this point, especially Gon and Killua. You know, there's a lot to get to. A lot of it is really quite tragic and dark and heartbreaking and horrifying. All of that. I can keep going on and on. But, you know, one of the things that still kind of stands out to me at this point in time, or right at this moment, as I record this, is Gon and Killua professional hunters in the middle, at the front lines of something of this magnitude, something that affects the entire planet, right? Might not seem like it at this point, but it can get to that. It can get to that, right? And now at this point, they've openly discussed the idea of extermination, right? Pokel, the late Pokel, or maybe not the late Pokel, they've taken him. They've taken him. And, I've got quite a bit to say about that as well, right? Pokel is a bit of a game changer for them. Because as far as I know, it's the first encounter, or first person or first human they've taken that does possess that type of life force, that is able to use Nen, is quite capable of using their Nen. I believe Zazan claimed that this is the same as 1,000 normal humans, average humans. So in that sense, now they've got a taste for that as well, don't they? Right? Through Zazan and Pike, one of the new characters that's been introduced. And, this character, this spider old man or old man spider hybrid, this is just one of the most strange designs, one of the most strange presents I've experienced in this anime so far. And, it's by design, of course. It's kind of there to make you feel, I don't know, uneasy. But, it's really quite effective, isn't it? I don't know, just looking at that character and even the voice, right? Again, you have to give credit to the voice actor, because there's something so jarring and bizarre about the whole package. The look, the sounds, right? The abilities, just the nature of it. I mean, it's a really, really bizarre new character, but it's a character that gets something out of us. It gets a reaction out of us. It certainly got a reaction out of me. It made me feel a lot of things, having to look and listen to this thing. But, also, Pike is a little bit special, right? Now, it remains to be seen if this is a really unique case, or, there are others. I mean, Peggy actually kind of alluded to something like this, right? That some of them can kind of feel these things, and then, some of them can see, right? It's kind of all over the spectrum at this point. But, through Pike, you see that he sees Pokel's Nen aura, right? He sees it, and he's able to see his projectile, right? His emission. And not only that, he's able to catch it. Twice he did it. And, I believe Pokel even mentions that, the orange one is the quickest, the fastest one he has in his arsenal. So that's insane. That's just goddamn insane, isn't it? That Pike just effortlessly just catches it. And he doesn't even have to brace himself or struggle or anything. It's just quick. Hands up, catches it. That's it. You kind of have to ask the question now. Is this something he was born with? Or, I mean, I was about to get to the second possibility, but, he could see it before actually even getting, tuned up, getting hit by Pokel's aura, or his emission, his Nen emission. Right? Because, they've firmly established a long time ago in Heaven's Arena that you can kind of force it, right? Master Wing had to do it for both Gon and Killua. Unless, of course, there is that possibility of perhaps the old man that was consumed and, ended up kind of being a part of Pike, or his genes kind of ended up being a part of Pike. Maybe, he was a Nen master, or not a master, practitioner, someone who had a hold of it or a grasp of it. But again, this is the NGL. You're not kind of expecting to just see those types of people just living here, right? Up until this point, they've made it clear there's the Gyro Squad, right? His people, his army, and all of that. I mean, it's barely there anymore. By the end of this episode, it's kind of been decimated. Perhaps including Gyro himself. I mean, listen, I'll get to Gyro. My God, just like the episode itself dedicates a huge chunk of it, close to half, a third of the episode to Gyro, I'm going to have quite a lengthy section on Gyro as well. I've got a lot to say and discuss about this tragic figure. And, again, this is a bit of an ongoing theme at this point, isn't it? A lot of these people, a lot of these characters, a lot of them that do kind of end up going down a really specific path, perhaps a path that is shrouded in negative light. They do come from really similar backgrounds and upbringings, or, just situations and realities that they are born into, right? Being born into something, into your situation. That is another big, reoccurring theme or component of this story arc, or just this anime as a whole, isn't it? You know, it's really quite applicable to the ants as well, the Chimera ants. You know, I kind of brought this up in the last episode's discussion, because now, you know, the Chimera ants are so unique and individual that, you know, there's going to be notions of, I don't know, radical ideas, notions of trying to do something for yourself, you know, separating from this and not being tethered to this, you know, I don't know, servitude you're born into, right? I certainly hope to see that. I certainly hope to see some of these ants really try to break free of that, right? Not, you know, I'm not saying it has to be a positive thing or negative thing beyond that. But, you know, you can already see through their actions. Of course, these are actions that have had Colt quite concerned for, you know, some time now. But yeah, you know, I like seeing the individuality of these ants, right? Listen, there's some sick ants at this point, right? Downright nasty ants. You know, it was something I was expecting, and I've seen it at this point. You know, the one that takes out Ponzu. My God, that is just beyond sickening, isn't it? Yeah, I just did not think that's the death I'll be getting for Ponzu. I mean, I certainly thought that, you know, both Ponzu and Pokol are on the chopping block. It's you know, it is predictable, or it is kind of I don't know, just the setup itself. You just know that these two are, you know, just the right type of you know, named characters to kill off. And it appears that is the case, because Ponzu is certainly dead, and Pokol might be dead soon enough. But, you know, again, that being said, Pokol is quite unique, and they have taken him alive, so they might have other plans for him before his actual death, right? Let's you know, put a pin in that and come back to that. But, you know, Ponzu's death, this Chimera ant is just completely, I don't know, infatuated with the idea of violence, right? You know, hunting in that manner, right? Again, guns playing a big part, right? He's really quite enjoying it. And, you know, it's pretty clear that at this point, you know, the genes of some of these soldiers, Gyro's army, have made it into the Chimera ants. And, you know, that's, again, the question, the possibility, the what if that Kite poses right at the conclusion of the episode. The combination, the worst combination possible in Kite's mind, the NGL and the Chimera ants, it's already at play. I've seen it through this one ant, right? He's so trigger happy, just absolute overkill. And again, you know, they give you that glimmer of hope, that light at the end of the tunnel. Hell, it's actually even presented in that manner, isn't it, visually? Because you see that Ponzu's almost out. She's almost out. And she sees the light. But no, right before she can exit the thick forest, she gets shot down. And that's certainly not enough for this Chimera ant. You know, he wanted more. So he proceeds to just unload on Ponzu's dead body, just riddles it with bullets, right? And then proceeds to eat her. You know, she's not even a part of the whole, you know, cycle of being fed to the queen, and then, you know, potentially having some of your memories kind of remain, you know, the residual element of all of that. You know, it's kind of something that is almost confirmed at this point, right? Through Colt's slip up. Though he does, you know, it's not as if he's trying to hide it or anything. Slip up as in, you know, it just slipped out, right? And then he's kind of thinking about it himself once he does kind of, you know, create a bit of distance and find some, you know, empty space for himself. So he can really kind of think about this thing that just happened to him, right? Reina, his late sister. And again, you know, I've seen nothing of Reina as of yet, as of this point, right? Her presence, you know, residual memories kind of coming through in another Chimera ant, nothing. So that's interesting, because it is something noticeable. The absence is quite noticeable, I'd say. But yeah, the idea of residual memories and, you know, your, I don't know, resolve, and all of that, you know, the possibility of that leaking through is quite a high one, isn't it? Now, you know, Colt, or, you know, the former Kurt, had quite a, I don't know, strong presence, quite a strong conviction, and again, you know, resolve, right, as that protector figure for his sister, for his mother, and that already showed through in Colt, right? Even before, you know, him slipping up, or, you know, Reina kind of leaking out, So I've already seen that, okay, that's a thing. That, the former human whose genes are most prominent in the subsequent Chimera ant that's kind of born out of it, it's there. It can shape the Chimera ants. I mean, you see it in the collection of Chimera ants I've seen already, right? All of them really quite unique, just in how they speak, how they carry themselves, how they're dressed, really quite unique. So, a lot of things do kind of come through quite clearly. So for me, that's one of the more exciting ideas that I really hope is explored much more as well. And I feel like it is going to be explored because, now I have the biggest candidate of all, right? Gyro has been taken to the queen. Yeah, how do I even tackle this? Yeah, let me kind of, focus on the points I started, and then I'll come back to Gyro. And just the whole concept of residual memories and reincarnation and all of that. But beyond just Gyro, even in some of these other Chimera ants, it'd be cool. It'd be really interesting and fascinating to see if some of the others also kind of begin to leak through or slip up or begin to say things that they're a little bit confused by. I mean, I've said it already, but to me, the Chimera ants and their development, the growth and the new experiences that they're having, that's one of the more exciting elements of this arc already. And, in a sense, it kind of feels like I'm getting to see, human evolution, or hundreds or thousands of years of human evolution over the span of a really short period of time, months and days, even sometimes. The jump that's happening here, right? The monumental jump that's happening here in the shaping of this new species, the Chimera ants. It's alarming, really quite alarming, but exciting at the same time as well. And, alarming for someone like Pokel, who certainly understood, okay, this is out of my league. This is out of our league. Let's get out of here. Let's get the top dogs, the big boys in on this. Let them know, okay, this is a concern. This is not something that's going to remain isolated to this place, to the NGL and the neighboring countries, because those neighboring countries are going to fall. They are going to be taken over at some point. They just are. By the time that king shows up, and my God, the king, and I'm speaking of the Chimera Ant king, not the other king, Gyro, again, who might just be the late king. Again, more on that later. Once this Chimera Ant king arrives, I'm going to get the most fine-tuned Chimera Ant human hybrid yet, right? The lines are going to be so blurred at that point that it might just be the look that might separate it from humans, right? But again, let's not forget that even if the king might be, the most refined version of the human Chimera Ant hybrid, it still is going to have a lot of blinks, right? Even the king himself is going to, learn new things, feel new emotions or human emotions, perhaps. And get to learn about humans and how they operate, right? And then kind of pass judgment on that, or react to that, analyze it, all of that. It's exciting. This imminent arrival is one of the most exciting setups of Hunter x Hunter. And at this point, it feels like a foregone conclusion, doesn't it? That yes, this king is going to be quite the Nen user, right? He's going to have access to his own Nen aura, because he is going to have genes from, someone like Pokel, who is worth 1,000 of these average humans. But the crazy thing about all of this is that Pokel is actually quite average. He's an average hunter. He's an average Nen practitioner, right? At least in comparison to, again, some of these other incredible practitioners I've seen, right? Even then, I'd say he's barely average, but yet he's worth 1,000 of these normal humans, based on their experiences, based on Zazan's assessment. How insane is that? That Pokel is that big of a jump, but then you have to think about the jump beyond Pokel, right? I hate to say it. I hate to think about it, I really do. But, it's something I've already discussed. I've discussed the death flags in this, and two of them have been on the mark, right? About, Pokol and Ponzu, unfortunately. But the other one that, I spoke of, someone like Kite, right? Now think about that. Let's think about that possibility. It doesn't even have to be Kite, right? Even though that is something, I think could be a strong possibility in terms of a big character. And yes, I know, Kite's been introduced after, or, I found out about Kite long after Pokol and Ponzu, but, the thing, you just have to be realistic about it. At the end of the day, even though Pokol and Ponzu have existed in the anime for some time now, since the early days, even though, of course, they disappear after that, after the Hunter exam arc, at the end of the day, Kite is someone far more important to the story as a whole, to the, protagonists as a whole. I'm not trying to diminish Pokol or the late Ponzu, but I am trying to be realistic. These are mid-tier named characters. And, that's one of the reasons I felt so strongly that, yeah, these are two people that are about to die out there, most likely, right? The sudden reintroduction, and, again, knowing the danger that's out there as an audience member, yeah, it just made a lot of sense. But let's get back to my initial point, and the possible jump from someone like Pokol to someone like Kite, someone of that ilk, someone of that experience, right? It could be anyone. It doesn't even have to be specifically Kite for this point I'm trying to make. I'm thinking of people like, I don't know, like a Bisky, like a Hisoka. Goddamn, imagine Hisoka in this setting. I mean, imagine Hisoka in this situation. Imagine Hisoka showing up once, word gets out. I'm not expecting that to happen, nor do I really, want it to happen. I mean, as much as I love Hisoka, he's not really needed here in this arc. I mean, he might make an appearance down the line, and I'm not speaking of an appearance here on this island. Just, once it does kind of get to that scale, once it is a bit of a global level threat, right? But the thing is, now that Pokol kind of, spoke of getting in contact with the association, the Hunter Association, and, as brutal as it was, as tragic as it was, I think, Ponzu's, her last act is actually one that actually could be one of the most important things any human has done, right? Getting that information out there, getting it to Kite, that might be her lasting legacy. And that might be, again, one of the most crucial things that she could have done. So even in death, Ponzu is making her mark, right? She is going to have a say in this. This idea of, the extermination squad, I believe that's the term Pokol used, right? Now, this idea of, global scale, the idea of this being this potential biohazard, and, this infestation, right? The whole point, the whole idea of something like that is to contain it, right? That you go back to the beginning of this arc, and it feels like it wasn't even that long ago, right? Quarantine. Now that quarantine has to be on a larger scale, right? The scale of this island, right? And this kind of takes me back to a point I made a few episodes ago. This idea of them, once it does reach higher up, to the Hunter Association and everyone else that's kind of attached to it, and people that they might actually even bring in, outside of the actual association, even, because there's some incredible people out there, right? That might be equipped to perhaps be a part of this squad that might come in. Now it's all about kind of containing it, isn't it? So, the potential for it being a large scale, global level threat is certainly there. But, I think the smart thing here, or the most, important thing to do here is to contain it to this island, and that includes the neighboring nations, right? This island is going to be targeted at some point as a whole. Notify the people that are kind of equipped to handle this kind of situation, right? Because it's getting out of hand. It's getting out of hand quick at an alarming rate, right? Pokol, again, like I said earlier, he's realistic enough to know, okay, this is above his station. This is just, I don't know, far beyond anything he can handle alongside some of his, traveling companions here, who all ended up dying. I mean, the other two guys also died in quite the brutal manner, right? One gets his head chopped off and he's actually looking back, for a few seconds, his senses are kind of there, kind of trying to assess the situation. And then the other one gets accidentally chomped on. Again, the goofy Pike, who's not supposed to eat him, does. His instinct just kind of kicks in and he chomps on him. And then, of course, there's that really comedic and bizarre reaction to it. But see, here's the thing that has me a little bit concerned at the moment. Just like how Pokel understood that, okay, this is just, beyond them. This is just, out of their league. It's possible that Kite and his companions, Gon and Killua, might actually find themselves in a similar situation. Yes, they're far more equipped to actually, put up a fight and handle themselves in a situation like this. But even so, I think it might be too much for them to handle as well at some point, right? I mean, first of all, they're just outnumbered. That right there is just really quite a scary prospect anyways, right? But I think at some point, Kite is going to realize, okay, I have to get these kids out of here. I mean, okay, I shouldn't say that. Kids in the sense that, okay, he feels a responsibility, for them. In this episode, there's a specific scene of him asking, if they can accompany him, right? Yes, they initially came in, they flew in, and he gave them the rundown of how dangerous it can be and how they're going to have to be on their own, right? Because he's going to have to look after his party, people who are simply not fighters. And the thing is, they're out of the picture at this point. They're gone. And realistically, Kite was never going to take those two in there anyways. But at the moment, Kite, Gon, and Killua are at the heart of it, right? In the thick of it, proper. And their first encounter with the Chimera ants is imminent, right? And there's plenty of options. It could be perhaps some of the the foot soldiers, Gen 1 ants. They'll dispatch them quite easily, and of course that is going to assist in scaling as well, right? The power levels and all of that. They could run into one of the other squads. Zazan's squad is out here, Pike and Zazan. You've got the koala who's out here doing his own thing. Again, one of the most fascinating Chimera ants of the arc so far. You've got Ramot out there. He's a bit of a loose cannon. You've got plenty of other squads in Chimera ants. Hell, you've got the 3 that have taken over the base as well, right? Taken over Gyro's base. And the thing is, it's quite a perfect number, isn't it? 3 of them. You've got 3 of Gon, Killua, and Kite, right? That could be something. Because I've seen it before. Just in Great Island, I saw Bisky, Killua, and Gon, 3-on-3. But this is a bit of a different level. And then, of course, there's the 3 King's Guards that are also imminent. But sticking to Gon and Killua, and going back to a point I was making a little bit earlier, yeah, Gon and Killua, pro hunters, right there on the front lines alongside Kite. So just thinking back to, the Hunter exam arc, thinking back to the first time I see Killua come across Gon, right? Skateboarding, and noticing that, oh, that's someone like me. He's kind of similar in age. He seems kind of cool. Let me go talk to him, right? They immediately kind of buddied up. Those are the images that are kind of playing in my mind as I see them on the front lines here now, right? As pro hunters. And they're proud of it. They are, right? They do feel like there is a responsibility there now, right? For them to actually be a part of this, to check this out. And all of the experiences that they've had, throughout the Hunter exam, the Heaven's Arena arc, Rescue Killua arc, York New City arc, Great Island, all of that. It's all going to come into play here. But yeah, I'm really quite proud of Gon and Killua, and it feels quite special because I've been there at every step, seeing all of their progression, right? But yeah, now, it's perhaps their biggest task yet, biggest learning experience yet, right? And it could be quite the, I don't know, it is going to be a challenge, incredible challenge, but yeah, there's going to be more than just a challenge. The emotions, the stakes at play, everything. And also, let's not forget their reactions to Ponzu, or her remains rather. And even that, that frame of just all that blood, and I think it's her hat and just some of her clothing ripped up. Oh man, it's just such a sad thing to see. Someone so, I don't know, wholesome and just so cute and innocent almost. I'm not saying she's completely innocent. Her beast can do a number on you for sure if they need to, but yeah, there's something really quite, I don't know, depressing about someone like that dying in this manner, in this horrific manner. It immediately kind of made me think of a moment a long time ago back in high school. And at that point, I was watching Dexter for the first time. I'm not going to go into spoilers, but there's a death in that series that hit me so hard at the time. Again, I was a different person at the time as well. I mean, it was the type of scene, it was the type of death that really stuck, man. It really stuck. I remember just being really deflated and depressed for the rest of the day because I kept kind of thinking back to it, right? And again, it's tough to kind of discuss this, without going into spoilers, but my God. Yeah, even now, kind of thinking back to it, I'm getting like a lump in my throat. But yeah, back to this and the reactions to Ponzu's remains. Of course, Gon's reaction is the one that is the most, I don't know, noticeable, concerning, because, at this point, throughout the different arcs, I've seen Gon get angrier and angrier, right? He's got this type of reaction in him. And the face he's making there, it's oof. Now, of course, Killua and Kite's reactions are a bit more reserved. They were horrified at the sight, of course, but it's not the same as Gon, is it? Right? And this dichotomy of Gon and Killua's arcs, it's been interesting to see up until this point, and it is going to be interesting beyond this point as well, isn't it? The direction both of them are heading into. And at this point, one of the most intriguing prospects, for me at least, is, how Gon and Killua are going to assess this situation, approach it, or want to approach it. Oh, and also I'm just assuming that Gon remembers the bees and, the clothing, the ripped up shreds of it, at least, and the hat. And, again, that's the reason there's such a reaction out of Gon. But yeah, earlier I spoke of Ponzu's last act and her lasting legacy. But let's shift the focus to Pokol and his potential role for the remainder of his life, because it is inevitable that he is going to be fed to the queen, right? And once the queen gets a taste of this, right, once she feels the nutrition or just the essence, the life essence of this person, then they're going to be targeting these types of individuals, right? And then once word gets out, there's a few more of those types of individuals out here, then the hunt is really on, right? Because then you have a lot of them going after just a few of these, figures. People like Gon and Killua and Kite, who are just on a different planet even in comparison to someone like Pokol, who is also on a different planet in comparison to average normal humans that do not make use of Nen or anything. And, even beyond that, if you look at it from the Chimera Ants perspective, now that they've actually, or at least Zazon's group, has kind of come across someone of this ilk, now they know, this is the ticket. Instead of kind of meeting these quotas and all of that, right? And you see that, they do it, but it's not something they enjoy. She told Colt as much, I'll make sure to fill my quota, but don't you dare tell me how to hunt, right? Now there's this possibility of just getting maybe one or two of these, not even two, one of these. In Pokol, one is enough for the day, more than enough for the day, right? So yeah, it's things are escalating quite a bit. And even earlier, you've got Colt and Peggy, assessing the dead bodies of these Chimera ants, the Gen 1 ants, in the manner of death. So yeah, at this point, the idea of Chimera ants and Nen is just imminent. It really is. I mean, beyond imminent, I've seen it already, through someone like Pike. But imminent in the sense that, they'll be using it soon enough. They'll actually be using it, right, against people like, Gon, Killua, Kite, and whoever else shows up down the line. And then, of course, I spoke of the king. I know he's going to be, fully loaded, juice to the gills. But yeah, in Pokol, they do have someone who launched a lot of these attacks, these projectiles, right? They have them. So yeah, they have a chance now to get information out of someone like Poco. I mean, good luck trying to get him to speak, but they have him. He's there and he's alive, right? He's stunned or paralyzed because of that sting, Zazan's sting. A component of this arc that I've really enjoyed up until this point is the investigative angle, right? It's been so enjoyable, so engaging, and it's been so effective in building that tension. Right from the beginning, right from Gon and Killua coming across Kite, and then, the first appearance of those ants. I mean, those Chimera ants feel like, I don't know, they feel like almost a different thing altogether at this point, right? In comparison to these Chimera ants. And of course, since then, I've been treated to some fantastic new music. And, there's a new piece in this episode as well, right in the beginning, right in the flashback. Gyro's backstory. Yeah, that is incredible. It's just this incredible piece of music that is so, I don't know, so affecting and so effective for, Gyro's backstory. It is. Yeah, I mean, the music in this anime has been top notch. I think I've been quite blessed in experiencing a lot of incredible music in anime. Again, that also comes down to the fact that, a lot of these are hand selected, handpicked to be put into polls. Nothing is really, random. So ultimately, it is a lot of good stuff. So, for that reason, it makes a lot of sense that, pretty much all the anime I've experienced has had some phenomenal music, right? Attack on Titan, Eva, Chainsaw Man, Vinland Saga, Death Note, and Hunter x Hunter, same composer, right? So yeah, and of course there's others as well. Full Metal Alchemist, of course. Right then, let's shift the focus now to Gyro, right? And that incredible sequence, that incredible backstory segment. It's one of the, it's certainly, I'd say it's a standout of this episode. And it's one of the, I don't know, standout moments of the anime as a whole, right? That scene and the approach, the depiction of that scene, the depiction of this tragic figure's existence, if you can even call it an existence, because ultimately this child at that age felt that he must not be human because he simply did not feel human. He felt like he's outside of that realm, that these things don't even apply to him. Right? That they shouldn't apply to him, that they can't be applied to him. It's horrifying that the kid at that age felt that he's not even human. My God. And it's really quite clear that Togashi wanted us to really see in detail, the life that this person had once upon a time, the horrifying negligence and experiences that led him down this path. And then really quite effectively kind of fed into an adulthood of these really, really miserable aspirations, right? Listen, at the end of the day, I'm not condoning the things that, Gyro is putting into place or has implemented and put into place. And apparently, the drug DD is just a first step, in essentially in introducing misery to humanity. I see how I can totally see how he got to this point. I'm not saying it's okay, I'm not, but like I said during the episode, yeah, I see you, Gyro, I understand, right? And the most tragic bit of this is that he was doomed to this path in life at such an early age. That's one of the most tragic components of this, right? This poor child had no other escape. He had nothing else. It's just his father, and that's it. And his father kept him around as well. So, there's no escape in that sense. There's no, sense of, okay, maybe it's a good thing. A few years down the line, maybe he could have been like, okay, maybe it's a good thing that he kicked me out. Now, or look at me now. I've done all right for myself. But no, his father kept him again for selfish reasons, but his pure and innocent mind just kind of twisted that into thinking, okay, I am needed. Yeah, it might be a little bit rough, it might be tough, but at the end of the day, that's my father. He's like this hero figure, right? And of course, it's quite an extreme take on it and look at it, but at the end of the day, it certainly kind of reestablishes the importance of these types of figures in the lives of these characters, the father figure and the role that they play, even if they do everything not to play a role, right? They still end up playing a role. You know, Gyro's father most definitely plays a role. You've got Jing here, Gon's father, who certainly plays a role in his life. I mean, he's, I've spoken on this extensively. I think he's kind of taken a really unique approach to this, right? To fatherhood, to raising Gon, or for giving Gon certain experiences to help him grow and go through different stages. All of that, right? Yes, he's not maybe a good father in the traditional sense. Let's not repeat myself here, but you know my take on Jing at this point, right? I'm not the type who just hates Jing outright. That's just not how I look at things. That's just not how I look at characters. Hell, the Chimera Ant, absolute psycho, of course, the one that shot down Ponzu. But at that point, I didn't feel any hatred towards that Chimera Ant. Yes, it's jarring. It's I don't know, alarming, and it's just crazy. Again, psychotic. But at that point, I had sadness for Ponzu, and that's it. At no point did I think, oh, I hope this one gets taken out. I hope this one dies. Miserable death, right? That Chimera Ant is born like that, or was born like that, shaped like that, essentially, right? Born into it. Yes, from the outside looking in, and of course from Ponzu's perspective, it's horrifying. It is, but at no point did I feel like I hope someone just kills this one, or at no point did I feel that about Pike either, or any of the Chimera Ants. I just don't have that. I don't know. I'm really not tribal about the characters I take an interest in. And, I'm honestly just as excited about these Chimera Ants, just as intrigued by, their development. But yeah, going back to Gyro and this scene specifically, yeah, this I mean, certainly kind of establishes the plot relevance of this character. All of a sudden, this is a big deal. A big deal to the story, to the arc. But the really puzzling thing about this is that it's given a lot of focus. You don't get these types of backstories in Hunter x Hunter. You don't. This type of extensive focus. Hell, you've got the narrator actually taking us through this. I mean, Togashi's made it as clear as he can. This is a big deal. Gyro is a big deal in this anime. But the really puzzling thing about this is that, again, by the end of this incredible backstory sequence or scene, he's pretty much gone. He's on the chopping block, right? You see that bloodied up chair, and you've got a Yunjin or Yunju who's had quite the experience. He's a little bit, I don't know, just not in a trance, but he's really deep in thought about this Gyro figure. So something happened there off screen. Maybe he got an understanding for the type of person this is and his aspirations and things he's put into motion and plans on putting into motion. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but something happened. Something happened for Yunja. Yeah, the other person or his his sidekicks kind of had to snap him out of it. And then, he immediately, talks about, I didn't really feel like fighting, so I handed them over. And he's going to end up being fed to the queen anyways, something along those lines, right? But he regretted not just, eating him himself. And before I even get to hear him speak for the first time, he's been taken to the queen to be consumed. I mean, like I said, it's an incredible moment, incredible scene, but there's something that's a little bit jarring about it as well, because, you get that extensive focus, and that's that. That's it. He's been taken to the queen. I don't even really get to see the man. Also, that is by design, isn't it? Isn't it quite fitting that, this person who's always been this silent figure remains silent right till the end, right? The end is an interesting term, I suppose, because, listen, let's not beat around the bush. The first thing that immediately comes to mind is that he might end up playing a massive part in the buildup of this imminent king, the Chimera Ant King, and Gyro's conviction and his resolve, his aspirations, even though, they might be miserable aspirations from a certain perspective, those are quite strong, right? And those most definitely easily could leak through to the king and shape the king in some capacity, for sure. I certainly believe that, firmly believe that. But, that being said, that also feels a bit too on the nose. It feels a little bit too, okay, it's going to play out like that. Listen, it's impossible to know for sure how much Gyro knew about the Chimera ants and the whole process of getting consumed by them. But in a sense, there is a possibility that he welcomed it, right? It's possible, once he might have found out about the Chimera ants, right, and their structure, and this imminent king, and the role he could potentially play in shaping the king's, I don't know, ideology, his perception of things, his take on things. I mean, again, this could be me overthinking it, but you have to speculate, because there's a lot of stuff that's just missing here about Gyro, right? Post flashback. Now, the seat is bloodied up quite a bit, so there's signs of a struggle, of a fight back, and I see that the 2 guards are missing as well, so they might end up being consumed as well. Not might, they are going to be consumed, because they confirmed that Colt showed up, and Yunju handed over the bodies, didn't really put up much of a fight, according to the sidekick. But yeah, ultimately, is it possible that Gyro actually felt that, okay, sure, let me be a part of this. In essence, I'll be a part of this. If this is my last stand, if this is it, let me be a part of it in some capacity, because maybe he likes the sound of things. Maybe he likes how, the Chimera ants look at humanity, look at humans, right? There's a lot of similarities there. There's a lot that they can agree with or upon. But going back to my speculation about Gyro actually, potentially being, a major influence on this imminent king, or becoming a major influence, again, through consumption and all of that, and residual memories, and, resolve, and all of that. Again, like I said, it's a bit on the nose. So let's try to take a different approach. Okay, so maybe he can come in as one of the new generals, one of the new squad leaders, if they, I don't know if they even need any more new squads, but someone in that bracket, Colt, these types of figures, Yunjun, or Yunju, and again, some of these other ones, maybe if he can come back in that capacity, and he does kind of maintain that resolve, those memories and all of that, kind of similar to Colt maybe, but I feel like someone like Gyro might be even more potent, right? His memories and all of that, just because of how they've been shaped, how this individual's been shaped, the reason behind the person that he is today, and why he did the things that he did, all of that, it's really quite strong, all of it. So maybe it could be a unique approach. I might actually get to know Gyro in Chimera ant form. Maybe if he remembers enough, he can actually speak to people like Colt on his past, maybe people like Peggy. I could see something like that, maybe. These scenes that are kind of like, okay, this does not leave this chamber. That kind of conversation, Colt and Peggy already kind of have those types of run-ins already. Peggy was a little bit perplexed already, thinking about Reina. Who the hell's Reina? Peggy's intelligent enough to know that there's something going on here with Colt, right? Though, Colt kind of gives him a bit of a reality check, almost kind of like a reminder. It doesn't matter how impressive you think the humans might be. Let's focus on ourselves and our task at hand, and that's us protecting the queen at all costs. Because from Colt's perspective, Peggy was beginning to sound a little bit, I don't know, neutral on the matter, right? More so of like a student who's really quite intrigued by human nature as well. And, that's one of the reasons I love Peggy as well. I really enjoy Peggy. And through characters like the koala and some of these aggressive Chimera ants, and then characters like Peggy, there's strong signs here that I am going to see Chimera ants that are going to, learn to understand that, okay, humans are not all so bad. Just like how some of the human characters are going to understand that, not all Chimera ants are all that bad. But again, that being said, for now, the darker side of humanity is certainly, quite present in these Chimera ants. Those traits, those features, that aggression, all of that is certainly already on display. But, I'm also really quite excited to see the other side and how that is going to shape the Chimera ants. I think it'd be a bit more interesting if Gyro doesn't end up being a part of the King's build. the Chimera Ant King's build, and just ends up being another Chimera Ant, right? A really unique one at that. Right? There's a lot of potential there. And then, if that is the case, it'll be so fascinating to see Gyro be part of that group, right? And function in that group and function around, other some of these other characters that he might come across, people like Gon, Killua, Kite, right? So yeah, it got exciting. This episode just set up so much exciting stuff. And also, I feel like I prefer a Chimera Ant King that is a bit more unique, rather than, some other character playing a major influence on him. Now, I'm not saying that the outside characters are not going to influence the king at all. I certainly hope that is the case, because, there's certainly the prospect of a phenomenal case study as well through the king, the refined, the ultimate Chimera Ant, and the journey he might go on. Right. So for that reason, I don't really want another really, unique character to actually bleed through in the Chimera King, someone like Gyro. But yeah, ultimately, it's been made really quite clear that Gyro is going to play a part, quite a crucial part, perhaps, in this arc from this point beyond as well. Just look at that backstory. I feel that specific presentation really assisted in kind of getting into the headspace and really kind of putting us in that harsh, gritty, brutal environment that he grew up in. The use of lights and shadows is impeccable, and so effective. And then, of course, you've got the outlier himself, right? Or itself. Again, a matter of perspective, the outlier being Gyro, right? The way he's drawn, right? This pitch black dark figure, and only on a few rare moments or occasions, rather, you see those eyes open up, right? And it's so jarring. It's just so striking anytime those eyes open up. Unfortunately, on both occasions, it's really quite heartbreaking and tragic. The first time I see that is after his dad lashes out and kicks the bunk from below, and you see his eyes open up, in terror, this panic, and he immediately closes them, almost as if, even his reaction is not allowed. It's such a unique art style, right? It's really quite the departure from the usual. And yeah, you see, it was kind of required for something like this. The storyboarding, the cinematography is just incredible. Some of the visual storytelling here is essentially some of the most effective and exceptional and engaging I've seen, from this anime as a whole, and anime as a whole beyond Hunter x Hunter. And that art style and the use of harsh lights and shadows, it just so effectively communicates the emotional despair that this young man, this young child is experiencing on a daily basis. But even so, you see that he hangs in there. The young dude just hangs in there. He tries to extract the best out of it, even though, he understands deep inside he's deluding himself. And you see that, he ends up lashing out because he kind of allowed himself to almost, voice it. And the moment he voiced it, he knew, he regretted that immediately, because now you've got this youth who looks like a goddamn grown-up who just absolutely has a go at him. But yeah, it's a rough upbringing, isn't it? It's a tough reality to be born into. And, he had no other choice, right? No other choice, no escape, nothing, and the thing is, he wasn't even trying to escape up until a certain point. And then he took matters into his own hands, of course, right? That hammer. And of course, that shift to color once he does take out his dad, yeah, that is so effective, that he's finally broken free of this miserable existence of his, in this place at least, right? And now it's in his own hands. His next steps are in his own hands. And of course, as established, yeah, he goes on to do some things. But I think it's absolutely tragic that, this child's perception of humanity was shaped in such a negative light from right from the beginning. It's almost as if there's no other possibility for him. At that age, in his formative years, these terrible experiences developed such a deep resentment for humanity, right? Such malice in his heart. That malice, it stuck, it stayed even after he took his father out, right? It wasn't like, okay, now there's a new start. Maybe I can get away from here and create a new life for myself. And things are going to be fine. No. It shaped him for the rest of his life. And speaking of these formative years of development, all of those critical, those crucial, those foundational elements are completely neglected. Completely. right? They're talking about how this kid couldn't even speak up until a certain point. I mean, the abuse, the mental torture, the neglect that he's put through is it's just too much. It's too much. Listen, at the end of the day, the father had it coming. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, no. The father had it coming. He did. It's as simple as that. But it's rough. It's rough kind of sitting there and seeing a child go through that and knowing the impact all of this is going to have on him, is having on him, again, in his formative years. Ultimately, Gyro, as a child, was forced to exist as a ghost, right? He only existed as a ghost for the most part. And, thematically, it does make sense that he is this shadowy figure as well later in life. And even now, it's I still don't know much about him post flashback, right? He's almost immediately he's gone. But going back to this idea of needing to exist as a ghost, it's that or catch a severe punishment for, even making the slightest bit of noise. How dare you exist? Right? That's essentially how his father looks at this, right? How dare you inconvenience me in the slightest? And you see, because of these types of things and experiences, he ends up developing that, that thought that I'm not even human, right? I must not be human. Everyone else is. And again, that kind of plays a part in presenting him as an outlier. And just to step back and think about it a bit more, imagine the amount of immense abuse and mental torture that it would take for a kid, for a child to snap in that manner and actually kill their father. But that scene of him essentially slipping up or thinking that he slipped up by sharing this information and the youth just, really confirming things in such a damning and nasty manner. It's a new experience for Gyro, isn't it? That moment of panic, that feeling of being caught in the headlights, the ears burning up. Like, you kind of thinking in that moment, oh my God, this is happening, right? Even that made me feel so bad for him, because of course a part of him really wanted to, share that, put that out there, that my dad does care about me. But, the other part of him is definitely thinking, keep it to yourself. Keep it to yourself, keep it hidden, because he understood enough that, this is a bit of a delusion, right? And that last bit of delusion was just absolutely decimated. And, I've got to say, one of the most, striking and impactful and, sickening shots I've seen in this anime so far is of that guy's foot on Gyro's face. Right? That is just, oh my God. Oof. It's one of those images I'll never forget, right? I'll always remember that, especially his eyes opening up after he sees his father just look at him and walk away. I mean, his father is drunk. He's absolutely pissed at that point anyways. Not that I'm saying that he would have come to his rescue if he wasn't drunk. I mean, sure, even if he is drunk, I'm sure he still understands that's his son under that foot. I mean, but the shot itself is so striking, so symbolic as well, of course, right? The world telling him that this is his place, that he was born into this and he should accept it, right? And that's that. It'll be nothing else, nothing more. It's such a detailed and visceral shot as well, right? To really get this reaction out of us. Yeah, that idea of knowing your place or being born into a certain position. And then, of course, the people above you keeping you down, the world keeping you down. Because that's just the nature of things, perhaps, right? I think that right there is really quite applicable to the Chimera ants as well, right? Thematically, being born into a certain position, being born into a hierarchy, and for a lot of them, you're at the mid level, at the bottom level, right? And maybe there's no prospects of rising to the top or doing anything more than the things you're born into. I think I discussed this in the last episode's discussion, or maybe even the one before that, that certain ants might, become a bit radical. They might have radical ideas above their station, right? That they might begin to think, I think, this is in the last episode's discussion, they might begin to think, there's more to life. I don't need to be tethered to this, screw this. I'm going to do my own thing. But again, there's a hierarchy in place. So, it'll be interesting to see, once some of these Chimera ants begin to think in that manner and then are, possibly shut down almost immediately or, just taken out altogether. But yeah, because of all of these really terrible experiences, he established a certain attitude, right? Disillusionment, cynical towards life as a whole, right? Humanity as a whole. He doesn't even consider himself to be a part of that humanity. It's tragic. I think it's a tragic character. It really is. And again, the really heartbreaking part of this is that all of this happened at such an early age. His perception of things, right? That that life has no meaning. That life could never have any meaning, and that the universe does not care about me. I'm an outlier. I'm a no one, nobody. Don't make troubles for humans, eh? Nah, he decided he's going to do the opposite from now on, right? He's going to be the enemy of humanity. And yeah, he certainly had a plan of action. He put it into motion, though, a part of me certainly wants some of those details, before he actually ended up founding the NGL. And then, of course, I believe they said 7 years after that, after founding it, he became the king of the area as well. And, it makes sense. NGL as a whole being founded by Gyro specifically makes a lot of sense. Cut ties with the outside world, right? Humanity. And only have, I don't know, like-minded people or people that are controllable under his, I don't know, control, I suppose, or under his regime. Actually, I think it was 9 years, right? 9 years after killing his father, he founded the NGL. And then 9 years after that, after founding the NGL, he became the king. So he was still pretty young around the time he founded the NGL. So see, there is something interesting going on there after, the journey he was on. So, it'd be great to get details on that. I'm not sure if I am going to get details on that. Maybe that might be more of a manga thing, because a lot of times some of the details are left out, right? Just his journey as a whole to getting to the NGL and then becoming the king. And even before that, but after killing his father, there's that stretch that I would love to, know about. And, one of the reasons I feel like I've become so infatuated with this character of Gyro is because in my own personal writing, I actually do have a similar character that I've kind of built up. And yeah, it's actually really quite similar. It's the type of character that, yes, has quite a rough past. And, certain things that led him down a path that's quite a brutal path, right? Sickening, capable of sickening things. But there's a larger story at play. There's a reason for the way he is. And the thing is, anytime I kind of go back to that character and kind of develop that character and their arc, in my mind, it's just so clear. It's so clear, like even like a visual standpoint. And the thing is, anytime I do go back to that character and develop that character a bit more, in my mind, it's just so vivid, right? Just the imagery of it. Right? Any potential, I don't know, live action imagery just as a thing that exists in my mind. And I'm sure it's the same for many people. But yeah, it just feels like this character that's so alive in my mind that exists, right? And these experiences exist. The pain exists, that, the headspace. I'm able to kind of really get into that headspace. And this isn't really something I talk about much. Hell, this might be the first time I'm actually openly talking about, my own writing. And, listen, before I go any further, this is just personal writing. There's no, I don't know, this stuff, I just enjoy it. Again, I love storytelling so much. I enjoy characters so much. I enjoy story arcs so much that, of course, I've done my own. For years and years, I've done my own. But to me, it's just like a thing, like a personal thing that I like to do. It doesn't need to be out there. But yeah, as an enjoyer of fiction and storytelling, of course, I've got a lot of my own ideas, a lot of my own writing, a lot of ideas. Yeah, let's get back to this episode, or, kind of circle back to the ending of this episode now, I believe. Yeah, it kind of brings me right back to Ponzo's death, right? Hunted down, right? That Chimera ant said, hunting is so fun. This dude is just enjoying himself, having the time of his life, right? Ponzu got hunted down for sport, for entertainment, for amusement. And that's it. That's the end of her life. Yeah, you know, it's interesting, isn't it? You know, the hunters being hunted. I mean, they established this really early on, you know, the nature of that profession and the dangers that you could come across, right? Sure, you know, some might not ever come across these types of dangers, but it's a possibility. If you pursue these unknowns, there's a possibility. There is a possibility that you are going to put yourself in this type of situation. And isn't it so interesting that Gyro's NGL kind of provided the ants with the perfect playground, right? The perfect place to mature, to, you know, develop, to experiment, to run riot, right? Without any outside interruption. I mean, yes, you know, the outsiders are here now. They are, but again, you know, they're here a little bit too late. And, you know, they're already far enough along, the Chimera ants, that is, that, yeah, it's a big problem. And, you know, it's going to require big personalities, big characters to be a part of the solution, potentially, right? Again, Poco called it a potential extermination squad. Yeah. So, you know, just the moment he said that, you just kind of imagine the types of people that any potential extermination squad might have, right? The people that might actually come in, might be sent into this to take care of the situation, is going to have to be some of the best of the best. I mean, hell, there's potential here for new character introductions as well. But, you know, I've already seen a few of them that are quite capable. And, you know, even beyond people from the Hunter Association, you've got outsiders, really capable outsiders. Now, you know, I'm not saying, you know, that anyone's going to be getting in touch with maybe the Phantom Troop, but, you know, you could see how, you know, one or two members of the Phantom Troop could be quite helpful in this case for a payment, of course, right? But, you know, if you're speaking of payment, I mean, there's a whole family for hire, right? And they're the best in the business, right? Of course, I'm speaking of the Zoldycks. So, you know, there's even a possibility of maybe getting outside hires to assist, right? Because I already saw them, you know, Togashi already showed me that, yes, you know, they'll take a job. You know, the two biggest, you know, dogs of the Zoldyck clan, Zeno and Silva, they took the job in York New City, even though it was opposing someone from their own family as well, right? There's no conflict of interest there at all. So yeah, that's a possibility as well, right? I don't know how much Jing might be a part of this. Honestly, at this point, I'm not expecting him to be a part of this at all, but it could be interesting to get his, I don't know, maybe a check-in. I don't know, even that seems a little bit rare, because, you know, up until this point, the only time that I've seen Jing kind of just chilling and doing his own thing was, you know, that scene back in the Whale Island mini arc, the return arc, right? It's showing him on top of a creature that's on top of another creature, right? That felt like that was actually a quick look at Jing at that point in time. But yeah, you know, this really truly feels like uncharted territory now for the series, right? Yeah, the stakes are so damn high, the highest they've been. And yeah, you know, the possibilities just feel so grand. They do, right? Like, look at this. I'm thinking about like any potential groups that could include Zoldycks even teaming up with other people, other, you know, prominent figures in the association, perhaps other, you know, maybe even other characters I haven't even seen yet. It's on that scale, right? I mean, remember, that was the thing I felt right from the beginning anyways, that this feels like a global scale thing. So this is, you know, the perfect chance for Togashi to now bring them back in, right? It's perfectly set up to do that. Establish all of these fantastic characters, incredible ensemble cast. Now you begin an arc that can actually, you know, facilitate the reintroduction of a lot of them. Yeah, it's really, really quite exciting, and there's just so much to talk about, so much to discuss and analyze. And at this point, you know, I'm noticing that these recordings are getting quite a bit longer. So I do have to allocate a bit more time, you know, to just editing all of this. You know, it could cause me a few issues, perhaps. Let's see, hopefully not. But yeah, I think that should do it for this one, folks. If you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like, consider dropping some comments, give me your thoughts. If you are interested in early access or timer-based full length or full opacity, consider checking out the Patreon page and, you know, potentially supporting the channel. You know, if you're interested, the links are in the description and the pinned comment. Also links to social media if that's your thing. Right then, thank you so much for joining me, folks, and thank you for your time, because time is precious. It really is. And I do hope to see you again soon for the next one. Until then, take it easy.